Get in there, Lewis. What a way to do it, mate. What a way to win your 7th world title. Mate, you have got to be proud of that. What an awesome drive.
Thank you so much, guys. That's for all the kids out there who dream the impossible. You can do it too, man. I believe in you guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support.
Lewis, congratulations for the 7th title. I couldn't have done it better.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic drive with the slicks. Fantastic. It's really awesome to be a witness of that, Lewis.
And for HVP, Lewis, if you can go HVP 7 position 1. So into the pit lane, world champ.
The year was 2020. Lewis Hamilton had just won his 7th World Championship in Turkey. He was on top of the world at the time. He was considered, arguably by many, as the GOAT. Many thought he was the greatest driver in the history of Formula 1. He was also considered the best driver on the grid. Since then, it's been 3 years. The 2021 season has seen Lewis lose the title to Max Verstappen. The 2022 Formula 1 season has seen him not even compete for the title and finish 6th in the championship. It's not only that he finished 6th, he was even outscored by his teammate. Now we are in 2023 and Lewis Hamilton, after the first race of the season, is 5th in the championship standings. Not only that, he extracted every ounce of performance out of that Mercedes and still could not get better than 5th. He was even lucky to get 5th because if Charles Leclerc had not retired, he would have been 6th in the race. At the same time, Lewis, well, he's in the last year of his current contract with Mercedes. And the contract negotiations, they've been getting delayed time and again. After a poor showing at Bahrain from Mercedes, does this mean that the Lewis Hamilton-Mercedes partnership that has been going on for more than a decade is close to an end? Let's take a look. Okay, first of all, before we proceed, a word from our partner PureVPN. When you're surfing the internet, all sorts of hackers track every move you make. Your internet service provider knows exactly what you're browsing. You want to put a stop to that? Use PureVPN. That's not all, because as F1 fans from all over the world, we love the coverage from Sky Sports and Servus TV. With PureVPN, just select Austria as your geolocation and stream the race without any extra charges. Sitting here in India, one thing that bothers me is that we cannot even see the interview clips on Sky Sports Twitter account. Well, they are geo-blocked. PureVPN helps to find a way through that. A simple sign-up process gets you on board, and a simple navigation system will help you choose whichever location you want to access that content from. You can join me as well and enhance your overall experience on the internet. Sign up to PureVPN by clicking the link in the description box and open the doors to an amazing experience. Now let's get back to the video. Now let's be honest and a bit brutal as well. Mercedes is not going to fight for the title this season. Why? Because first of all, the gap to Red Bull is just too big. In qualifying, the gap at Bahrain was around half a second. In the race, the gap did not reduce, it increased on the other hand. Around 7 to 8 tenths of a second per lap was the norm. Without Max Verstappen even trying to push, he was able to get this kind of a gap over Mercedes. With that kind of a gap to the leader, can Mercedes even challenge for wins or podiums even? It's highly unlikely. Then to add to this, it was quite obvious from Toto Wolff's post-race speech that he gave with I think Sky Sports, where he said that this was the worst race of his career. He's not wrong. He has been around Mercedes since 2013, and even that season Mercedes finished 2nd in the championship. This is arguably the worst Mercedes that he's seen. And it's not hard to see that he was a bit discouraged to see that much of a gulf between Mercedes and Red Bull. The man has been dominating the sport. The turbo hybrid era was entirely about Toto Wolff's team dominating, and right now where Mercedes finds itself, it's quite demoralizing for the team as well. The bigger issue is the fact that Mercedes is looking to change its concept. Now, when a team is looking to change its concept, what it basically means is that first of all, it's an admittance of failure. The zero sidepod concept has failed effectively in the eyes of Mercedes. When that happens, primarily that is a kick in the groin for the Mercedes engineers, who have been toiling hard throughout the winters, and after just the first race of the season, the team is discarding the design. Then secondly, even if we keep that part aside, the more important thing is when you bring in a new design concept, it takes few races to become optimized. And even if it does, it will push the team further back in terms of performance and development as compared to its competitors like Ferrari or even Aston Martin. Mercedes, if it changes its concept, which maybe it might, and it might need to because the zero cyber concept is proving to be a failure, Mercedes will be pushed a few pegs back before it starts making its recovery. If that happens, and looking at the fact that the team is the fourth fastest car on the grid right now, Mercedes is not fighting for the title this season. And while that might be a hard pill to swallow, and there are 23 races this season, it seems like that is the trajectory the team is on. Now, this was something that I'd raised in one of my earlier videos as well, where I stipulated whether Lewis might retire at the end of the season. The fact that Lewis and Mercedes have not reached an agreement on the contract extension, it should be a red flag. Why? Because at the end of the day, that thing has been going on for a while now. Lewis made a suggestion last year mid-season that he wanted an extension, a multi-season extension to his contract. It hasn't happened until now, and we've seen the 2023 season start as well. Now, one of the speculations for this was the fact that Lewis wanted to see how the new Mercedes operated and where it was in the pecking order. By the looks of it, the Mercedes is nowhere. It's the fourth fastest car on the grid. And if Mercedes was hoping that the car performance is going to help the negotiations, that has certainly not happened. The fact that Mercedes and Lewis are not even talking about a contract extension right now, it shows that the agreement has not been reached. And with the kind of performance Mercedes had in Bahrain and the talks of a change in concept, it might be hard to convince Lewis to sign on the dotted line for another 2 years in possibly a car that cannot fight for the title. Now, this is something interesting because Lewis himself has said multiple times that he is willing to invest a few more years in Formula 1. He's not kept it a secret in any which way, that he still feels he's performing at a very high level. He's not wrong, he's performing at a very, very high level right now. And the fact that he wants to spend a few more years in the sport. But the question that comes up is Lewis even confident enough that Mercedes will be able to chart its way back to the front? Secondly, is Lewis confident enough that Mercedes will be able to do it in a certain time frame? Will the next year's car be a title challenger? To be fair, I don't know. I don't think anyone does. And the way Mercedes is right now running around like a headless chicken, looking for a change of concept, then earlier making a huge mistake by sticking with a zero sidepod concept, you have to ask if the team has even cracked the new regulations, or is the team well equipped to handle these technical regulations? There are no answers for that. No one knows. It could be yes, it could be no. The team certainly has a pedigree to be a world champion. It has done that in 8 out of the last 9 seasons. So there's no doubt about that. But the last 2 seasons should be a red flag for Lewis or for any other prospective driver who aims to drive for Mercedes. No one knows whether Mercedes will be a title challenger next season. No one. No one knows if Mercedes is winning a race this season as well. That is the situation Mercedes finds itself in right now. Similarly, there's one thing people need to understand. There are many that will give the example of how Fernando Alonso, at the age of 41-42, is willing to spend multiple years for Aston Martin to become a race-winning or championship-winning project. I agree, he is doing that. But you also have to understand that Alonso, the last time he won a championship was in 2006. Since then, he's been hungry for success and he has been unable to get it. And it's his drive, determination, and maybe even some stubbornness as well that he will not give up until he wins the championship. Alonso has spent 10 years going from team to team to find a perfect recipe. Can Lewis spend even 2 years in a mediocre car? I don't think that's the case. And it's not because Lewis is not as determined or he gives up easily. That's not the point. The fact is, Lewis is a 7-time world champion. When it comes to success, he has achieved it all. Alonso hasn't. Alonso feels his career is still unfulfilled. Lewis cannot say that. Lewis has the most fulfilled career in F1, in the history of F1 ever. So this is where the motivation differs. And in my view, I'm not entirely sure that Lewis will be able to take a punt on a 2-year mediocre car if that is the case. It is a major question that needs to be answered whether Lewis will be willing to invest another couple of years in a mediocre Mercedes or a car that is unable to fight for the titles. Whether he's willing to do that Whether he's willing to put in that kind of effort, we don't really know. But it will be worth keeping an eye on because that is going to decide the fate of the Lewis Hamilton Mercedes partnership. Now, coming to the conclusion, will the partnership end? Now, I think first of all, what we need to keep in mind here is Lewis's demeanor after the first race. He was very upbeat, he was very confident, and most importantly, he was showing a sense of loyalty towards Mercedes. Now, lest we forget, Mercedes has given Lewis 6 world championships. There's no denying that. And let's also be fair, if it wasn't for Mercedes, Lewis might not be considered an all-time great. So when it comes to repaying that faith, it does appear that Lewis, at least to a certain extent, is trying to do that on his part. Now, the problem when he does that is, it's still just the first race of the season. What if, after 5 to 6 races, he still finds himself finishing in P5, P6? He still finds himself being overtaken and beaten by Fernando Alonso on the track. Will he have the same positive outlook? Will he still feel the same sense of loyalty? And most importantly, will he even be motivated to drag himself through the 23 race calendar? In a car and in a team that is not fighting for a title, after doing that for almost a decade, it's very hard to pick yourself up and be motivated to do that. Finally, it cannot be denied that the fact the contract is not signed until now, it is a clear indication that things are not going well. It is a clear indication that either from the driver or the team side that the partnership is on shaky grounds. The first race has done nothing to improve that, and the team will need results to ultimately get the confidence back and get the love and the affection back within the team members. Now, in my view, arguably if I have to make a pick, I think the biggest sticking point for me is going to be how no contract has been signed until now for the next 2 years. If that is the case, if that is how it's going to be, I think there is a very high possibility Lewis might not stick around in the future if the Mercedes is not going to improve. So these are my views. What do you guys think? Do you guys think Lewis will leave Mercedes if the car does not improve? Do let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching and see you next time.